says 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock's 18.
I know, but I adjusted it in my melon.
You are correct. This is wrong.
Buds, you're so smart.
Does your car clock stay the wrong hour?
He's on now.
He's on now. I have like 7 clocks everywhere, and every one of them is spot on. They're actually 4 minutes early.
You should look at the camera so they can hear you too.
Early. Every one of my clocks is early.
Why early?
Because I hate being late.
But are they an hour off?
Why would I want them late?
Right. Is that right? Am I doing this
you
wrong?
set your
So
clock
if it's 1 o'clock,
ahead of the real time so that you go, oh, I got to leave, and then you're actually early.
So if I could do something at 1 o'clock, my clock already says it's 5 after.
Yes. So we're thinking the same thing.
We're thinking the same, but maybe I just
words.
right. Which is
it drives.
normal.
I like to have the clock right on.
Yeah.
time.
Oh,
My clocks are just 15 minutes late just because I don't know how to change them.
That's way worse. That's so much worse.
Yeah. So
Go to
never on time.
Go to time.gov. It gives you the actual U.S. atomic clock. It's the official.
But don't you guys know what time it is? That's why you need like 7 clocks.
Game time.
No. I have.
I think it's showtime.
These set your times anyway.
Hey, John, let's start the show.
Okay.
The boys are back from Finland for a very well-attended optional practice today. But in case you missed what happened on the DLLS Dallas Stars podcast when we got back in the studio yesterday, check it out.
Yes, your favorite spot.
We never get to come into the lounge.
Your microphone isn't even near your face. They can't hear you.
We never get the.
I thought you were talking to me, and then I looked over, and his was out of the studio.
Let's break down the pantser.
No,
Come on, say
another Finnish-born player on the Stars. Roope is at a point per game. Point per game. I just realized I have gum. That's how little I've
You've been chewing gum the whole time? It is Tuesday, November the 5th, and this is the DLLS Dallas Stars Podcast. Welcome back into the podcast room. We were in the lounge yesterday alongside Craig Ludwig and Sam Nestler. I'm Owen Newkirk. We're happy to have you here. See it at the bottom? It says, don't forget to follow us, like, subscribe. But most importantly, in addition to that, spread the word. Tell your friends. Let them know what we're doing. The more, the better. The more viewers, the more listeners we get, the more wacky, goofy things we'll be allowed to do because maybe we'll actually get a budget to do those things. Luddy has all the ideas, but we don't have no money for it yet. So we're working on that.
Tell your friends. Tell your friends we
Oh,
got
look
paper
at that.
towels.
Super chat right off the top. $2 even. So that would be what? Is that
even.
Darian Hatcher and
the year they lost to the Devils.
the year that
Game.
Luddy retired?
Yes.
From Burned Oils. Thank you for all the laughs, guys.
Now, how do you guys know that? Like,
What?
how do you know that's what that's for?
I don't.
Yeah, we
It's
make it
we're
up.
Oh,
just-
you guys just
Oh.
making it up.
Does it sound like we're confident in it?
What was it, Burned Oil?
You can
Yeah.
ask Burned Oils.
Well, Burned Oil.
They're listening.
Let me know if those guys are right or not.
Is the $2 thing just
Is
for
it,
$2?
yeah, does it mean absolutely nothing? It's
Yeah,
just a
that's what I'm
number.
saying. I mean,
I
but
know
I think you guys
Ardell-
nail it all the time. I'm just curious.
Most of the time.
Big
Ardell,
up.
when he puts his super chats, he
Ardell-
specifically...
Was it
Why
Ardell that he said it'll never be? It's not Dumba ever.
It's
So
always
Ludwig.
Ludwig.
But why couldn't 2 be Brian Leach?
Okay.
Like, how do you know he's
Brian
not?
Leach never played for the
It
Stars.
could be, but
Why
that's
does it
a
have to be a
different team.
Stars guy?
Well, this is the Dallas Stars podcast.
Well, so what?
I mean, it could be.
Okay.
Do you
Said he
think
guessed it right.
we guessed it right?
Yeah.
That it was Hatcher in Luddy's retirement year?
Yeah.
There.
Ask
Abby.
and you shall receive, Owen. Thank you, Abby.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, we get
I
the
think
super
she's like
chats.
10 feet away from us right now. You can just shout it over her. Thank you, Abby. She reply?
Throw one of those footballs.
All right. We have a big show for you today. In addition to talking about Roope Hintz and the Stars' supposed top line The team is back in practice for the first time since flying back from Finland to the United States. Sam was there this morning. We'll get an update about their optional skate. We have a pile of NHL News and Notes, including David Pastrnak and Jim Montgomery spoke yesterday at Bruins practice about Pasta being benched. I have a video clip of Monty that I think Luds will like to hear. We're going to play that during our fourth segment during our NHL News and Notes.
Movie.
But first, let's get to the title of today's show, which has to do with Matt Duchene. Guys, Matt Duchene is off to a fantastic start. He's on pace for over 100 points. In fact, I did the math this morning, about 111. Whether he sustains that or not is not necessarily the point of this, but he has 15 points, team leading, 7 goals, also team leading, and second in assists with 8 through 11 games. Think about that. That's 1.36 points per game. And Luddy, what stands out to me more than anything else is +6. Now, I know plus minus nowadays is sort of it's bougie for everybody to say it's a terrible stat. And say something to a defenseman about plus minus, and they'll get very testy about certain things because it doesn't necessarily give you context and this and that. But I still think there's value when you look at the larger sample size, right? Not one game, although if a guy's -4 in a game, something's wrong. But if you see a big plus or big minus for a large sample size, there's something there. Matt Duchene, a guy who usually had lots of points and lots of minuses in his career, is leading the team, and he and his line are leading in that plus-minus category as well.
Like I said this the other day, I think Matt really enjoys where he's at right now. I think he loves the teammates. I think he loves the coaching staff. I think most guys, I believe, love the coaching staff and management, and they're treated well here. They know that, the general manager has put together a good group of guys that surround him with. But I think he is so comfortable with the group, but more importantly, I think it's the 2 guys he plays with. I just think that there's chemistry there. I think they push each other. And in my opinion, when you're playing with Marchment and Tyler Seguin, I think Matt Duchene is the hardest working guy on that line too. And I don't know if people would say that about him over his course of his career, because as he said earlier, he was worried about his points, how many points you get. And this is more a sum of the parts, not just his line, but the team. And I truly believe that this whole group is pulling and pushing for each other. But I just think he loves the chemistry of the guys that are on his left and his right. And, I looked this morning and I was just kind of going through numbers and things like that. And what was better from last year or the year before? I can't find anything that just jumps off. And I was looking at 5-on-5 stuff. I didn't find anything that jumped off the page, and I just went, he just likes who he's playing with, and that's one line I don't think he's going to, because what was it, a year or two ago, or for a couple of years, it was, the Hintz and, the other 2 guys, right?
Yep.
And so this year it's this group that I think that coaching staff knows, well, let's put Duchene out here. And the other thing that I thought of, I get bent out of shape sometimes when pucks are supposed to be in the offensive line, all that other kind of stuff. Anytime that I can remember that Matt may have turned a puck over at the offensive blue line, he's later come back and scored a goal, whether that tied the game or was a game winner. So,
and he's a big guy in
puck possession,
carrying the puck,
and he should be
zone entries under control.
And see, sometimes I believe that maybe the 2 guys that play with a player like that, I'm not talking about that line, that they want to start doing that too. And I think you have to play to what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And I think there's times that Marchment could maybe chip it behind that defenseman and then, put pressure on him or, but I just, to sum it up again, I just think he loves who he's playing with.
Yeah. You mentioned 2 things that really stood out to me, that what he used to be labeled as, right? You said he wasn't always labeled as that guy.
So to speak.
He was labeled as either one-dimensional or he's only offensive, or he can only pass, he can't shoot, whatever. He's had so many of these labels. Not often has it been a complete player as his label. And that's what Pete DeBoer called him today when I asked about him. I said, I used the example of that face-off win against Florida where he gets to the net and gets that rebound goal. And I said, is that what he's bringing? Is that why he's so successful? And he said, he's playing complete hockey right now. He's playing the complete game. And that's not just because of his confidence and how he feels. We've talked about how he's basically looking at this year as a continuation of last season and wants it to be the next level from what it was last year. But he also has made it pretty clear that he's playing for a Stanley Cup. And that not only has allowed him to take a little bit of pressure off of thinking about points and thinking about just specifically offensive numbers and things that he used to worry about, but it also has allowed him to not be the only guy on this team, which Pete DeBoer talked about being a huge deal, that he doesn't have to carry the team. He doesn't have to get 100 points.
It's funny you guys bring those up. Let's hear from Matt Duchene. This was from Finland this past weekend, talking about that exact thing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just focusing on the process, and I think that's the biggest thing. And I think I've been a little bit result and success minded in my career, and I think the last few years I've really just simplified the process of it. And sometimes the puck follows you and it goes in, and I think whether it's going in or not, you got to have the same detail in your game and the same process. And I think that's, like I said, that's something I've really focused on the last few years.
What do you think about that, Luds? Focusing on the process and letting the chips fall as they may, which has actually worked out well. I'll give you some numbers. From the beginning of his career, he's 33 now, through 22-23 season, which was his last year with Nashville. He played 976 games. He had 744 points. He was a combined minus 92, 0.76 point per game. Very good career. In 91 regular season games with the Dallas Stars, last year and this year combined, he has more points per game, 0.88, 80 points in 91 games, and he is plus 21. That is a stark contrast.
Again, that's the product around him too. It's not just him. You know what I mean? Because I think that they're all focused on that. And when you got a team that's full of minuses, and we can go down some teams right now, let's start in Nashville. But when you got when you have a lot of, you're not winning hockey games. And when he says the process, he means the team process, not the Duchene process. And I think they're all on that page. I think from your captain to those guys. I think about when they win the cup and Jamie gets the cup. Who's the first guy? That's always the question. Who's going to get it first? My opinion is going to be Tyler.
It was going to be Pavelski.
But, I'm sorry. Unless they're going to drive to Wisconsin,
right.
He's not getting it. So I think they're going to give it to Tyler, and I think Tyler's going to give it to Duchene.
More before Miro or anybody else?
I don't know. That's just what I think.
Yeah, no, that might be right.
I don't know. I mean, I think the older guys kind of respect the older guys. Tyler is, I think Tyler and Duchene, I think, are pretty tight too.
I agree.
And I think that helps the so-called
they
process.
Just click. Speaking of Pete DeBoer, here's what Pete said in Finland. He said something very similar to Sam today, but here's what Pete had to say about Duchene.
For sure. I think it's natural when you sign the contract Dutchie signed in Nashville to measure yourself on points. And I think coming to us in the situation he came to us, you don't have that pressure. You're not judged on getting 100 points, and you just have to play the right way, help us try and win. And you know what, most times when you do that, the points come, and the byproduct is a great season or points, and that's what you try and tell good players all the time. But I think he's been playing at an elite level. We wouldn't have the record we had to start the season without him. He's been arguably our best player.
I think that's fascinating, especially the contract part. You're being paid by the Dallas Stars to help us win. You're not being paid $8 million a year to put up 100 points and also help them win. And so even though he still feels he's probably the same player, how he's judged and how he's judging himself is probably very different.
I think when you play on lesser teams, you just want to do more. I mean, it doesn't come from being selfish. It's come from trying to help win hockey games. And if there's nobody else that surrounds you, and it's a yin and yang. I mean, you're gonna do more things, but you're probably gonna make more mistakes, and things are gonna go the other way because you can become Han Solo in a way. And I just think that, again, the W's have to be more important than the points. And I just think that that's where this group is, especially Duchene.
What you said earlier, Sam, sounds like Pete kind of echoed those sentiments today.
Yeah, absolutely. Same thing. I think that the interesting part about what he said there about the contract is that the contract was a kind of a show me contract last year, right? So you expect that to be all right.
Especially after getting bought out.
Yeah, so it's like, all right, you expect him to say, show me, let's go get 90 points. And I'm really curious. I'm going to ask my next chance that I have about if there was conversation about that. Did they bring him in and say, look, we're signing you to this 1-year deal. it may be a show me, but it's a show me how you can help us win, not show me you can go out and score 40 goals and, be that player we don't necessarily need.
And he also talked about when he re-signed, he was pretty convinced he wanted to be in Dallas. It wasn't about the money. It was about a chance to win. And Luddy, and I think, Sam, both of you guys talked about this, that the priorities change. As you get older in your career, you start chasing a Stanley Cup. You think about your legacy more, and he wants to be here. I heard some national guys talking about Dallas quickly becoming a destination for a bunch of reasons, because they have a good team. They can win. The weather's pretty nice during the hockey season. There's the no tax state for state income tax. But I think even more so, it's what the general manager has created. It's what the players have created, because potential recruits, free agents, trade picks, they see what's going on with the Stars and they want to be there, versus maybe a time, especially when the team was in administration, where nobody wants to be there.
Colorado, would you call that a hockey town?
Especially now.
Yeah.
But
Colorado's a hockey town.
By the way, not when Duchene was drafted. They were awful, and he was asked at a very young age to carry too much, I think.
And they were awful.
They were awful.
Okay.
But yes.
Then Ottawa, Hockey City.
Town. Yep.
Right. Nashville, honky tonk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's a little honky tonk.
He likes that. Yeah, he very much loves it.
Now you're in Dallas, where you're not the premier sport. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And
you're
that's
not the
another
show.
reason why it's a destination.
Exactly.
Because you can be a superstar in the NHL. I remember Jason Spezza was talking about this when he first came to the Stars. He and his wife could go out to dinner and nobody bothered him.
Yeah.
He goes, we couldn't go anywhere in Ottawa without somebody coming up to us every meal. And that has to be appealing for everybody that loves celebrity, to be able to get away in your home city.
You're incognito.
Yeah, and get best of both worlds.
And all you're doing is worrying about your job.
Boy, that's a great point. Coming up
That's
next,
what I'm here for.
Well, I mean, that's you're earning your keep today.
all he does.
Covers it well, though.
Up next, we're going to talk about the rest of the forward group, and particularly the number one center, and why right now he's not playing on the number one line right here on the DLLS Dallas Stars podcast.
First, let's talk about Rhoback. Rhoback activewear. It's quite simple. Best fit, best feel, and the quality of gear just speaks for itself. With fall in full swing in most places except for here, what better item to prepare for the season than by adding one of their performance hoodies to your closet? They are the softest items they have and will sure be the softest items that you own. Even now, the Dallas Heat, once it actually cools down, whenever you want to use it, it has the best combination for anything you need. Their performance polos perform better in the heat than any other polo. So they're moisture wicking so the polo doesn't stick to you, and it has a very nice stretch, perfect for some golf down here in Texas. Their everyday shorts are also the perfect combo for a day on the move. Look clean and use the comfort of an elastic waistband. So use the code DLLS Stars 20 on Rhoback.com for a generous 20% off your first order. That's Rhoback.com, 20% off all polos, hoodies, and shorts with the code DLLS Stars 20. Make sure to check them out, and they'll have you ready for whatever travels or activities you have.
Let's talk about Game Time. Who doesn't love going to live sporting events? Well, most of us do anyway. And what a great thing to do. And to do your best, you need Game Time. Game Time has a feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. You get curated seats, the best deals. How about the fact that you can also see exactly what your view is from that seat before you purchase? I think that's a really important one. Seat views are big for me. Plus, you get the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code DLLS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it, Sam?
Game time.
Game time. All right,
Cool.
let's get back to our conversation about forwards. Well, today was practice. We'll talk about more about what was in practice in our next segment with Sam was at Comerica Center in Frisco. But something that came out of it was also something that we wanted to talk about, and that's Roope Hintz. I think it's fair to say, fellas, that Roope Hintz was not at his best with the Stars Finland trip, the Global Series. I don't think Miro Heiskanen was at his best. And Pete even said, we lost these 2 games. We played for it yesterday. Somebody asked him about Miro, and he, wisely, Luddy, deflected and said, a bunch of our big point producers aren't really going right now. And you were happy with how Pete handled that. But Roope Hintz is one of the guys he's talking about. Now, let's look at his numbers. It's not that bleak because so far this year, in 11 games, he has 8 points, 4 goals, 4 assists, but he's -2. Again, plus minus, take it with a grain of salt. Pavelski and Robertson were always massive pluses, right? That line was so good at not only creating scoring chances, but also limiting chances against. When you look at all the shot shares and the different analytics of what was created, shot attempts when they were on the ice, it was massively skewed in favor of that top line. This year, I don't think it's as good. Now, let's be fair. Jason Robertson isn't up to maybe where he should be yet because of that cyst being removed from his foot. He missed all of training camp, and here he is getting it up to speed. It's been a while now. You'd think he should be better than he was. But look at today's lines, for example, as we had those from today's practice. Now, it was optional. There were a couple of guys that weren't there. Mason Marchment was one. Brendan Smith was the other. So if you look at this group of lines, it's Robertson, Hintz, and Dodonov. Oscar Beck probably filling in for Mason Marchment. Duchene and Seguin. Good that Sagan's there. We'll get into Seguin in our next segment. Benn, Johnston, and Stankoven, and then Steele, Bork, and Blackwell. This is, Luddy, the problem through 11 games is that last year we had a pretty good idea. 2 years ago, you knew it was Robertson, Hintz, Pavelski. Last year when Duchene came in, all of a sudden there's that second line with Marchment and Seguin. We go, wow, they've got 2 really solid top lines. Jamie Benn on the third line. Wyatt Johnston's looking great. They can't figure out what their top line is. I mean, I would think the argument is the Duchene line is their top line right now because it's their top producing line. But they have not figured out who Roope Hintz should be playing with. And we are into the second month of the season. Does that concern you at all, or is this just part of going through a season process?
Yeah, it's part of why they're meandering down the road right now. They're not a dominant team like we've seen them be dominant, and guys aren't healthy, and yeah, it's early, but there's a reason why when Joe was here, and remember, I don't know, does that count or not?
I don't know. Does he have to say the last name?
I
Or?
need half a ding for first name only.
I mean, you
say-
certainly can't hit the big counter bell and hit that.
What, this one?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
one.
That's this thing here. This is a physical one.
That's the one that I feel like you hit it with almost like an angry tone.
I
Here,
know.
I'll just say Pavelski. So you
gotta
can
ring
ring
him.
him
Hit it. Now
loud
you can
and
really
proud.
hammer
You
it.
can hear this one in Frisco.
Okay.
You
You're in
can.
trouble when that one goes.
I think it was show 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I kept bringing up who's going to replace Joe, and
We did
and
for
he's 40 years
3
old.
weeks.
For 40 years old, right? But he was such an integral part of that threesome. So, and a lot of times I talk about the driver of a line, and there's a reason when that line was put together and we talked about the drivers, I didn't pick him. I took Stankoven, and because Stankoven drives people back. However you want to look at it, Stankoven drives people on the offensive blue line back. He knows when to put the pucks in, blah, blah, blah. I haven't seen Roope do that.
He
and I don't.
should be.
Is he waiting for Stankoven to do it? Is he waiting for somebody else to do it? I agree that he should be.
Isn't Roope with his speed, especially
Oh,
in transition, he's the guy that backs everybody off.
Yeah.
He's not a threat right now. And I don't know if you're waiting around for somebody else to do it. And is he 100% healthy? I would assume so. I don't know. But it's just funny how, when you see that line together from, the past few years, there was so much chemistry. And you just saw all the little things that guy did with those other 2 kids, young players. And they're still searching. And the other thing is he's got to get more involved. He's got to be in the front of the net, and he's got to go into the corners and just, all the things that I say, you're kind of just nibbling around the edge. I think that's the reason that they put Jamie up there, and there was a little scuffle around the front of the net. Roope had no choice but to go in there and get involved in it. He was on the outside of it, but he was closer to it. Get a little closer to the action. The other thing I talk about probably too much is that when you're having a hard time, putting pucks in the net, go to the hard area, go to the front, let something hit you, let it go in off your ass or let it go in off your skate, get a rebound, get a couple dirty goals. And I think that's what he was trying to, or Pete might have been looking for with Jamie. He's going to pull him into the fight. So, but you know who it's up to? It's up to him. Rupe's got to make that decision. I'm gonna put together 5 games. I'm gonna play that certain way, and let's see where the results are, because it will make a difference for Robo, because there's going to be more. Robo's the kind of guy that just thrives off of things laying around the net, right?
Mhm.
He can get in there, he can get it upstairs. So you need that. So right now, when I look at that, and I know Marchman's probably going to be back in the lineup, but that lineup you had right there, I go immediately to Jamie-Benn, Johnson, and Stankoven will be your best line. And they're gonna
because
cause,
Marchman's not there right now.
yeah,
Right.
that's
Yeah,
all I'm saying.
okay.
If it as is, I'm immediately going out
You're
because of
drawn to that trio.
because of the guys on the flanks, the 2 guys that play in straight lines right there. Because that's
Mhm.
what drives people back. He turns people's heads. Here they come. They're going to be in the front of the net. So that's where but that's why I used to think it was Roope. And, both of those guys, and especially Joe, could hit those guys. Joe couldn't keep up with them, but he could lay pucks in areas where they could keep their feet moving, their speed, and then they would drive. I don't see that drive right now out of Roope.
Sam, there was a great film breakdown that Sean did on Roope Hintz last week. If another great reason to be a diehard here, go to alldlls.com and check out the Stars stuff. He does this film breakdown with some clips about how Roope's scoring, the goals he's scored, he's popped up in space, find areas to shoot, but that he's changing his game a little bit. He's being a little less selfish on the rush. He's deferring. Now, a couple of the clips when I watched them was, well, he drew 2 or 3 guys, and so that was the play, right? It was either try to force your way through a triangle of defense, or lay it off to Stankoven or something like that. So I wasn't that critical of that play. But as Sean was writing that, he said, I don't think he's playing that badly. Problem, as Luddy was just talking about, he's your number 1 center. Your top center has to be more than, well, he's not playing that badly.
Yeah.
No, Duchene's your number 1 center.
Right now is performing, yeah.
Well, why is he our number 1 center? Because his price tag says that?
No. If you look at Hintz,
I think you would want him to
if
be.
you look at the depth chart, he should be 1C.
I agree with that, but he's not our number 1 center.
Right now, no, I agree.
Yeah.
But, and look at the numbers here, Sam.
And he should be listening to this, and he should be all pissed off and say, I'll show those guys. That's what he needs to hear.
You think he's actually watching our show?
Not
I
a
hope
chance.
He is.
No.
But 2 years ago, plus 31. Last year, plus 26. So far this year, minus 2. I think that says a lot, even though we all hate plus minus now.
Yeah, no, a good way to put it with him, Sean said it perfectly. He's not playing poorly. I would never say, well, he needs to pick it up or he's going to get benched or anything crazy like that. But he needs to be that number 1 center. And if you look at all his numbers, his possession numbers are down. He's got more giveaways, fewer takeaways. His faceoff percentage is way down. It's not as engaged. And
how about his power play points and goals and assists? Is there any?
I don't even know if he has any.
1 power play point. Last 3 years, 24, 21, 19. 1 so far this year. And he's had 9, 9, 8 in power play goals in the previous 3 seasons. He does not have a power play goal so far.
How many times since Rupe's been here has he been a penalty killer?
This is new. I don't think he's been a big. We could look it up, but
last year I know he was
a lot.
Like a go-to guy? No, probably. But I'm just saying he
certainly
was
not the first pairing.
You're
but
not. You're not leading.
No,
you're not getting a lot of PP time or PK time.
Yeah.
And I was wondering when John and I were doing a little breakdown, and it was like, because I'm like, who's that forward that just slid out of the passing lane? Well, that was Roope. Because if you're going to kill penalty, I'm just wondering, are you trying? Are there people trying to force him to get into those situations? Because when I see a forward that your job is when the puck gets to the middle of the ice and you're killing penalty, you got to be in a shot lane. You don't get out of the shot lane, you get into the shot lane. And hey, you want to play in these positions? We're trying to give you spots to, get your game back together, but you got to do the right things. Can't be a liability when you're out there.
So, John, put that practice group again. Look, this is practice today. There's going to be a team practice tomorrow. I wouldn't be surprised if Marchman's right back in.
Yeah, and they didn't even run lines. They just these were just the colors.
Yeah. But here's what I'm going with here, right? This sort of indicates that they're going to switch up the groups again from that. We'll call it first and third lines. Really, it's the Hintz and Johnston right now.
Yep.
Who should be playing with? Should you keep Robertson and Hintz together, and who should be playing with them? Are they missing? Look, Dodonov's a good player. Stankoven, we're thrilled with Ben Johnson. Like, they have pieces. I remember I said at the beginning of the year, and I stand by this, the Stars are in better shape if Evgeny Dodonov is on their 4th line.
Yes.
And that's not an indictment of him. It just means that they're so deep up front that they have him a top 9 guy playing on your 4th line. Are they, that also predicated on Maverick Bourque being in your third line at that time. Are they missing a forward? I mean, they're a very deep group, but are they missing somebody?
Just one thing that I think is key is Pete DeBoer actually said it today. He said Benn and Johnston and Robertson and Hintz need to be their drivers on those lines, which means that those duos we always talk so much about, that Luds always says you find those two guys. Seems to me, in the mind of Pete DeBoer, those are the two that he would like to keep together at all times. So I think that is important to note, that they're not necessarily looking at where does Robertson fit, where does the Ben Johnston Robertson Hintz seems to be what they want 100%.
That's the duos.
Yeah, they just haven't figured out that right sign. And I think you're right, because if you say it's not Dodonov, let's move him down, who is it? You don't want to take anyone off that second group. If you want the Ben and Johnston and Stankoven, you don't want to take anyone off that group. Bourque?
Luddy, you really like to advocate for Logan Stankoven. Can that be a top line for the Stars, Robertson, Hintz, and Stankoven?
Yeah, but
should it be?
But the other two guys got to do what they are supposed to do.
Yeah.
If you took, and again, we don't have this guy here. If you took Tom Wilson and put him on the right wing between Robinson and Hintz, do you think it'd be a good line?
I do.
Yeah.
Why?
Two reasons. One, because Wilson's playing really well right now in general, but more specifically is because of the physicality that he plays with. And you know this, but I'll say it for those listeners. When you have a guy, whether it's a Tom Wilson or a jamiebenn, on the ice, the guys that are playing with him puff up a little bit. They feel a little bit more emboldened.
But why? Okay, and I agree with you 110%.
Yeah.
But Joe didn't do that.
No.
Why were they so good then?
I think it's because of how smart he was.
Exactly.
Positionally, his vision, and maybe a little bit the respect that he commands. But I just think that he's the prototype of a guy that had physical limitations, but also had physical gifts and knew how to play to his strengths and how to hide his weaknesses so it wasn't a massive liability.
Did you guys happen to see a goal, New Jersey goal, the alley-oop goal that was scored last night?
I don't think I saw it last night. I just saw that two teams didn't score goals
It was just
last
a
night.
puck, and I don't know if it was Heischer. I think it was Heischer that just got the puck and kind of alley-ooped it in the middle of the ice. He put it in a spot.
Yeah.
And it turned into a goal.
Remember, Essa actually did that.
Yes, exactly.
He had that. Was it Dodonovs that scored?
This is what Joe did for those guys.
Yeah.
He put pucks in areas that they could keep their speed moving. Joe knew where they were going to be and said, and it was funny, this is a Zubov thing, because Hully and Mo would always say things about, Zuby would just say, don't change your routes for me. You just go where you go, I'll put the puck there. The puck will be there when you get there. And that's what he did. He had the ability to see the open areas and just go for an open area. I'll lay the puck there. And I think that's what the other guy was doing for these two guys. And they missed that because Stankoven, I love that. We love that guy, but he doesn't have that yet. He's more of this energizer bunny kind of go and finish and chop and get pucks to the net and drive to the net.
Wouldn't he be a nice combination with Pavelski? Imagine having a guy that put pucks where Stankoven is going to be because you know exactly what he's going to do. Stankoven, to me, is such a predictable player in a very good way.
Correct. And you know he's going to work his ass off. He's going to continue to work. But what's happening is those two guys miss Joe.
Yep.
And I don't know, they have to, Joe ain't coming back, So, but I think that's how Roope kept his speed through the middle of the ice. When they were coming out of their zone, it could, Miro or whoever Miro was playing with, Harley, whoever it would be, could get the puck over to the right wing side. And hence, if he didn't touch it, he was able to fly through the middle of the ice because that guy knew where to lay it, that he could keep his speed moving. I don't think that he has that right now. And when you look, when Stankoven gets the puck, what does he first do? And I love it. He goes north.
Yes.
He goes north. And so when am I going to get the puck? Now you have to be willing to go get it.
If you had that trio, is it on Jason Robertson to play that Pavelski role to get the puck?
I think it's the sum of their parts.
Is it just they're figuring it out?
Yeah. I mean, how many times, like I said, when Stankoven gets the puck, he will put the puck. If he can't skate it in, he puts pucks in. But how many times on that line does he have to go get it himself?
In that film breakdown that Sean did last week, he highlighted Roope's goals in a clip where he showed all of them. And it was a couple of times Stankoven going to those corners behind the net and then finding Roope streaking into that open space.
Keeping his speed.
And that's not a transition play. That's an in-zone play. And that's good for Roope because I remember early in his career, if it wasn't on the rush, he was completely ineffective. He's gotten a lot more evolved in his game. But how do they get Roope going more between the blue lines?
I don't.
Do you think
I
this
don't
is what
think,
the coaching staff is pondering every single day?
I don't remember a lot of times that Rupe's got the puck going through the middle of the ice. To me, it's been going up the wall.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's, like I said, there was a guy there before that would say, just go to the open ice. I'll get it to you. Like, find that pocket in there and get your speed going. I'll put it there. I don't know if they've got that right now. And I would think that Robo would be the guy. I mean, Robo can lay passes in there, but I don't know if that's there right now. That's what that's why I say when I talk about the drivers, he can drive people. He can drive people off the offensive blue line.
Boy, fascinating stuff. We will talk more about this and talk about practice today with Sam, who is there in just a moment here on the DLLS Dallas Stars podcast.
Empire Today, my favorite. With Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. Empire is your one-stop flooring shop. They want to provide the best and most efficient service. It may not always be the most affordable, but you will have the best experience working with Empire. Empire keeps shopping for floors simple with a curated product selection. Their philosophy is to help you find what you need, not overwhelm you with thousands of choices and substitutes. What they leave out of their selection is just as important as what they put in. Their team exhaustively combs through thousands of product samples each year to find the perfect styles. Schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code DLLS. That's promo code DLLS. See empiretoday.com/DLLS for details. Restrictions apply.
For me, it's time to talk about What Chaos, the All-City Hockey podcast hosted by Pete Blackburn and DJ Bean. Mostly hockey with a little bit of nonsense, which is pretty much what our show is. Maybe a lot of nonsense with a little hockey. Interviews with players, coaches, notable personalities in the world of hockey, and appearances from other All-City NHL hosts. They've recently covered all the drama with the Boston Bruins. We'll get to that in our fourth segment today. The phenomenal start to the season by the Winnipeg Jets, and they spoke to Seattle Kraken goalie Joey Daccord. Live 4 times a week at 12 Eastern, 1 Central on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, make sure to check out their new merch collection, which just dropped in partnership with Just Dishin. Shirts, hoodies, hats, and accessories. JustDishin.com to check it out. That's the What Chaos All-City National Hockey Podcast with Pete Blackburn and DJ Bean. You should check it out. All right. Let's shift a little bit to Sam for this third segment, because we showed you the lines that we saw today. Again, as you said, they didn't really run lines. It was just what jersey colors were they wearing. So it wasn't even official that way. Yep. Stars traveled back on Sunday. They had a day off yesterday. They had an optional practice today, and they have a mandatory practice tomorrow. What were the biggest takeaways from today's practice being up in Frisco?
Yeah, they had a mandated day off yesterday with the NHLPA because of the travel and everything like that, which is I assume the optional would have been a lot more optional if it had a skate yesterday.
Oh, goodness.
But yeah, today was I'm not going to say surprise, but a surprising turnout in general when it comes to an optional. But it was only Brendan Smith and Mason Marchment were not skating, so almost full participation in practice, which was a sign that this team, one, wants to get back to the routine, right? Get back on the ice here, get going a little bit, and two, that they have a lot to prove, right? That when you lose games, especially the way that they lost those games this weekend or this past weekend, you have a lot to prove in the sense that you needed to change a little bit of something. So coming out and working hard. It was a short practice. It was only about 30 minutes long. A little bit of 3-on-3 drills and things like that, but no team play really. It was a lot of speed, moving the puck, getting the legs under him a little bit more, and then getting off the ice and getting ready to go. So I think the key there was the mindset. All the players, coaches, everyone talked about they want to be better. They learned not only that what they need to do better, but they also learned the lessons, like we said on our post-game shows, that they saw the level they need to get to play the best teams. That's the best team, right? That's the defending champions they lost to. They now know what that looks like. They know what all the little things look like in order to do them right, and they can learn those lessons.
Did you hear anything from guys about how they feel? Jet lag, time changes, being a good chunk away across the globe and then back. Was that talked about much today?
Not much. It seemed like as of now, I think that the idea is that it takes a little bit of time for that stuff to hit. And I think that's the case. I think
what do they always say? It's like a day for every hour of time change. Does it take to
something
react?
like that.
Something like that?
Yeah. Yeah. So that would give them like a week. It would take about
Takes you a week to get back to normal. If it's a 12-hour flight or something like that.
Well, it just
7-hour time.
7-hour
difference,
time.
right?
Yeah.
So it'd be a
That's.
week.
I mean, that's
Takes you a week.
Yeah.
Come on.
That's
to
the
get fully
the saying
over the jet lag. I don't know.
I got paid a lot of money to come up with that idea.
Someone wrote that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that the main idea was that like everyone just felt ready to go. It was a energetic practice group. I think that the plans are really detailed, right? Like on when they're able to sleep. Our friend Robert Tiffin wrote an awesome article where he talked with the strength coaches about how they did it on their travel over there. Blue light glasses on the flight. Like there was so much that went into it, and it still is during this week of when should you nap. I know
Right.
they had an app on their phone just telling them when
talked to
to nap.
Troy, their head of performance, a couple weeks before the Finland trip, and he really said this app is great because it will give you basically cues when you should be trying to get sleep, when you should be eating or drinking to try to help. He said you literally put in when you're leaving, where you're going, what time you'll land, and it will then create like a personalized plan to try to mitigate as much as you can.
Yeah.
The jet lag. Now that's all fine and good, Luds, but sometimes you have to go out there and kind of brute force through it too.
Yeah, you got to blow it out, and that's what today would have been for, and that's why you said just go hard and get it out, and you get back. I don't know. I never found that the 7 day gone 7 hours and it was taking 7 days.
That's because you don't sleep.
You're not a human.
I know, but I just think I think that one day I can see where it'd take you a couple days.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd take them a week, but we'll find out.
Well, they have a fair.
That's
Like,
a good
Luds didn't take
question.
nap. Did you nap when you were playing?
I did.
You did,
I
okay.
I ate at like sometime right when I got back from the morning skate. I watched all my children. I slept for 2 hours, and next time I went to bed, it was around 4 a.m.
I was going to say
did
you
tell it
probably
was a
slept
long-
more for your pregame nap than you do
for
at
sure.
night.
Yeah.
Oh no, that's where I got it.
That's where you get your sleep is in the afternoons.
Longest
Now, do you still
duration.
nap? You don't have
No.
games to get ready for it? So now you
Nope.
just don't sleep.
I just don't. Sleep.
I see Luddy doing that thing like the old Keith Richards rock star thing where he's hanging upside down by his feet and he's sort of sleeping like that, like an inverted bat kind of thing. Then saying that, what do they say? It
That's
prolongs-
happened before, but not on purpose.
What do they say? The Keith Richards can't be killed by conventional weapons because of how he sleeps. That's an old Wayne's World joke.
The best Keith Richards line, Owen, is for every cigarette you smoke, God takes an hour from your life and gives it to Keith Richards.
Who gives it? So Tyler Seguin missed the second game of the back-to-back in Finland, and that was a good thing. He was skating today, it was a good thing that he was skating today after missing that.
Yep.
But you also had an update that it doesn't sound like this is a one-off kind of thing for Seguin.
Yeah, that always comes into play, and the thought comes in when it's a guy like Benn or Seguin that we know has gone through a bunch of surgeries and injuries that have lingered in the past. That's exactly what Pete DeBoer said. He said, one, the good thing was he will play this week. It was a very cautionary thing. And Pete actually mentioned having depth. He said, we're not going to replace Tyler Seguin with any of our guys down in our depth levels, but it is nice to know that you can bring some guys in and you shouldn't see a big enough dip with the play of the overall play of the team. But he also said Tyler Seguin's dealing with something that really gets aggravated when he plays back-to-back games. He said just at this point in his career, this is kind of where the hips start to come into mind and things like that, knees that he's had, is that it gets aggravated when he plays back-to-back nights, and it's something that they're probably going to have to look at all year. Now, whether that's looking at it and giving him some maintenance days off, whether it's he just takes every back-to-back off, and whether there's a surgery down the line. I don't know any of the details of that, and I'm sure we won't get a whole lot of them. But the key to know is that as of now, it's a very cautious keep him out. It doesn't seem like it's a Roope Hintz. He's going to be in extreme pain and can't play random games throughout the season, which is a positive.
And the fact that they don't have a back-to-back the rest of November. Their first one is the literally first 2 days of December, where they play at home against the Winnipeg Jets, afternoon game on December 1st, which is a Sunday. and then they play Monday night in Utah, the first trip to Salt Lake City. We'll see if that's the case. If you know you have a guy like that who's dealing with recovery issues at that stage, how do you start to plan for that?
Well, I mean, we're in what, game 12, 10, 12, 14, somewhere in that neighborhood. So
They played 11.
you know what, they know when the important time of the year is, and when you get to the playoffs, you very rarely do you play back to back. So you're gonna, it's maintenance. I mean, you're gonna find them spots where we can give you a day off here and there. And I don't even know if it's always going to be on a back to back. It may be, you know what, here's where we are, because this team is going to be a playoff team, right? I mean, I think we're pretty confident in that.
It would be really surprising if something changed.
Yeah. And you want to finish, you know, you'd rather finish up in the top, and, you know, so 2 doesn't have to play through, whatever the number may be. But I think you have to have, most important thing is to have your guys healthy at that time of the year. You get down to the last 20 games, 15, 20 games of the year, you want to have everybody up and running and feeling good and all this other kind of stuff. And if you want to give somebody a game off because you're not going to move up or down, you know, in the last 2 or 3 games of the year, and you want to say, listen, we're going to give each of you 2, 3 guys 1 game off here, and then we'll have a couple days before we start. But again, this is early, and so I think it's fine that they're doing this right now. And because if you leave it up to Tyler, he's probably going to say, I'm going to play.
Yeah.
And every player would do that.
Yeah.
And that's actually what Sean said the other day about trying to load manage Jamie Benn to get the most good Ben games. It's not, it's anti the hockey culture to sit out.
But it's the same. I don't think any coaches or teams, unless you're maybe going for the number 1 draft pick, are going to lose games on purpose. But what this kind of past 3 or 4 years has showed the Stars is that there's no guarantee of anything. You could be the 8 seed and win the Stanley Cup. You could be the 1 seed and play the defending champions 100%. In the first round in the hardest series across the whole league. So don't use the idea of just get in like they used to and just scratch the surface of the 8. But look at that comfortable, stay on pace to be in the second, third
be in the mix
area
for the
of the Central
title.
Division. Yeah, be in the area of it. Don't put all your eggs in to win that title, because it may not make a difference anyway. So it gives them the flexibility of that, and they're a good enough team to do it.
Boy,
and be
they didn't
cautious.
pay off last year when you get Vegas in the first round, and everyone's trying to avoid playing Colorado, and then they get Vegas, which then they play Colorado anyway.
Yeah.
So we have a lot more to get to tomorrow. Sean will be back here, and we're going to talk about Tyler Seguin. On the positive side, his pace, just like Duchene, is over 100 points if he plays enough games this year. And we're going to talk Ardell. If you're watching right now, be careful, because we are going to have a Nils Lundqvist segment tomorrow. So I hope it doesn't set you off too much, but we are going to talk about Nils a bit more. And Sam will have a practice update because he'll be remote because of the turnaround time will be pretty quick. But up next, we have a jam-packed NHL News and Notes segment right here on the DLLS Dallas Stars Podcast. The DLLS Die Hard intro offer has expired. So you can't get that special introductory rate that we were just advertising over the last week or so. But there's still plenty of content to be excited about, and still great reasons to be a Die Hard. Most of our listeners are probably Cowboys fans, but there's plenty of Cowboys content over at DLLS covering the madness that's going on with them. Obviously, the stuff for Stars. Luddy's doing film breakdowns. He has one out this afternoon following what John listed as a production snafu yesterday. Sean has a new.
Not happy about it.
Yeah, I bet. So Sean has a new column out. Sam, what do you have on deck for this week?
I'm going to do an article on that Marchment Duchene line and how they drive their offense.
And by the way, when we were talking about it with Luds, the fact that they could sit Tyler out and Duchene and Marchment have still been producing this year, as opposed to last year when they were split up and it didn't. That's an interesting progression and a good thing. Also, a shout out to some of the new diehards that signed up yesterday. David, Jared, Richard, Jim, Ronald, Doug, Brian, Jocelyn. Sorry, that Brian was a different spelling, so I had to look at it. Zach, Paul, Alex, Victor, Katie, and another Alex. Thank you for signing up. Go to alldls.com. You can click on the Die Hard and become one. You get a full access, not just Stars, but Cowboys, Mavs, Rangers. It is really worth your money. Plus, you get a free T-shirt every year you sign up to be a Die Hard. All right. NHL News and Notes time. Boy, it's not just our producer being a Boston guy. There's just stuff coming out of the Bruins all the time. Well, David Pastrnak was asked, of course he was, after practice yesterday about getting benched Sunday, and he took full responsibility. Luds, he used the word he actually said this, I don't want to be a distraction for this team. And I couldn't help but think of you when he said that. He goes, I take responsibility. I had a horrible turnover. I have to be better. I'm not looking back. I'm focused on moving forward.
Yeah, I look at that, and they were up, and it was late in the game or in the period, and Monty's trying to make a statement like, we can't play that way, and our best players have to be our best players, and if you do it and you try that little move and get away with it or don't get away with it, then I have to hold everybody else. And so he made a statement. And again, I think they, regardless of what people say, I think they probably have a okay relationship with each other, and I think when you're, I know Marchman's probably, you're going to call him the leader of the team, but Pasta's obviously, the most important guy on the team besides goaltending. I mean, he's leading scorer, goal guy, and, but his numbers aren't very good. I mean, when you look, he's a minus player, but he's still the most dangerous guy out there. And when those two guys are together, Marchand and him, but he's just, I think what the coaching staff is trying to do is just say, here's how we have to play as a group. And if you guys don't do it, then how do I hold the other guys accountable?
Well, I watched that this morning, and then I said, I've got to see what Jim Montgomery said. And he had a full after-practice press conference, answered a bunch of different things. But this line, when asked about Pastrnak, especially being very vocal and positive while he was sitting on the bench in the third period, this is what Jim Montgomery had to say, and I think this is really interesting.
I said this since the beginning. I've said it numerous times. I'm really lucky to work with the leaders I get to work with. I'm very fortunate. In other places, like you've seen coaches that, it's a big problem. And I'm lucky with the accountability that exists in this culture and the leaders that I get to deal with, because that allows me to hold everybody accountable.
Think about that. Luddy, that last part, it allows me to hold everyone accountable. Mm-hmm. That's a very interesting line, and I can't help but think of back when he was coaching the Dallas Stars and said, we have a culture of mediocrity, and that was a clear shot at the leadership group at the time. But he's saying because their leaders are so good, he can bench David Pastrnak, and he doesn't lose the room.
You have to, he doesn't lose the room. You don't lose him. And you have to be pulling that trigger with guys that can recover and handle it. Because there's some players, if you do that, they'll quit on you. And so he can use those. He's lucky because he has those guys, and it has something to do with that logo, and it has something to do with the city that they play in. That's a proud city, and that's a proud team and organization, and they are held to a different standard in that market. I mean, it's the same thing in Toronto and in Montreal, and and those guys got to go out in the public and walk around and answer questions and things like that. And so you have to be able to do that. But again, it's a message to the rest of the group, and when you can do that to that kind of player.
Sam, the thing about it too is we talked earlier about the whole Monty stuff when he was giving Marchand a little touch and shove or whatever you want to call it. He's technically a lame duck coach. He's in the last year of his deal. It could be very easy to see these kind of public rifts and have the players go, well, he's not going to be here next year. We can just do our own thing. I think it shows there's one of two things. Either Jim Montgomery is just supremely confident that what he's doing is the right thing to do, and he's going to go out on his sword doing the right thing, or he has enough backing from management and from the leadership of the team that he can do these things knowing he doesn't have more years under his contract.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that so much goes on that we don't see, but from what we've heard and how much we've heard that has been calculated with some things that have gone on in that organization, it feels like it's the second thing you said. It feels like he has the backing. It feels like his players haven't sold him out or said anything negative about them. It's been about them taking responsibility for their mistakes, and it being, Marchand immediately saying it was made into a much bigger deal than it was. Pastrnak immediately taking responsibility for his part of it. So I think he does have the backing, and maybe we're all wrong here. Maybe this is not panic time in Boston. Maybe this is part of a process, and they're just feeling each other out and getting to wherever they know they can get to. But it does feel like he has support over there, and it's not him just freaking out, like it might have seemed on the surface.
I think he learned a lot having Bergeron there. And I'm talking about Monty. I think that Bergeron's the guy that probably held everybody accountable there, and Monty took notes on how he could say things to those kind of players. And now that there's no Bergeron, and he saw that the results that they got, if Bergeron would jump on one of them top guys and hold them accountable for a certain play or off the ice on what it may be, as a head coach, you kind of pay attention to that. And now when that guy's gone, somebody's got to do it. You can't just let, kind of run the roost. So I think he understands that. And I mean, it's not the first time. I mean, we knew this last year. He called Pasta out and things like that. So he knows that. I think they have a pretty good relationship. But we'll find out at the end of the year if Monty makes it to the end of the year. Who knows? Because exit meetings change a lot of things. Because you're having them meetings with general managers and presidents, and you think you're safe, and the next thing you know, you come out of there going, because it's happened recently to some coaches where, nope, coach is going to be here, coach is going to be here. Then they have the player meetings with GMs, and next thing you know, coach isn't there. So all of a sudden you're like, well, I can't fire 4 or 5 of these guys, or I can't trade them. Who's the next guy to go?
We know Pasta also what he did last time he was called out. So tonight they play in Toronto.
Yeah.
Toronto that will be playing without Austin Matthews, who's out day to day with an upper body injury.
What will Pasta be doing in Toronto tonight?
It'll be
get a couple goals.
And if they beat Seattle over the weekend, got a couple results, that eases the pressure a little bit.
Always proving a coach right.
You win in Toronto, eases that pressure a little bit more, especially for the Boston Bruins. A couple other things to get to. The Avalanche, Sam. Jared Bednar said that not only do they have Arturi Lehkonen back in the lineup, but Val Nichushkin is back at practice now. He said he will play on November 15th, assuming everything goes as scheduled with his full reinstatement. Unfortunately for them, no timetable still for Gabe Landeskog or Jonathan Drouin. What does getting Val back mean to this team that has not gotten off to a great start?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, they have been just absolutely hammered with injuries and bad news over the course of the preseason and the early part of the regular season. They are a much better team than they've looked so far, and it's just every time you get someone back, it's a huge lift, especially because this Landeskog thing just seems like it's just going to continue to go on and on. And it's good. It's good in multiple ways. Good. Val Nichushkin is a very good player. When he was playing at his top level, was a huge part of their success in Stanley Cup. So it's huge to get him back on the ice. It's huge to get him back. Hopefully he is coming in with I really need to prove it attitude, which he should. But it's also huge for them to not have that distraction anymore. The distraction should be our new ding over there.
We should actually have a T-shirt. We should have a DLS shirt that says "No distractions" and have a big Luddy cartoon photo.
No
or something.
regrets.
I like that idea.
Yeah,
Nice. So let's get on to Luddy with a no distractions. That would be an instant seller for the diehards. There's no doubt.
Him and his Joker
Oh my God. Yeah, that would be even better. We have ideas.
But yeah, I just think it's huge to not have that distraction anymore. With we just mentioned, the Landeskog thing is going to be hanging over this team, and it's a huge one around that whole organization. Now at least you're getting this one. Hopefully it happens smoothly, and number one for the player. Hopefully he comes back and all goes well, good health and everything like that.
They said those same kind of things a year or so ago. I think Val's fortunate in a way that there's some injuries, they're not playing well, and the coach is looking forward to you being back because you let the coach down a couple times at the wrong time of the year.
In the playoffs, less.
So I think he's fortunate. I don't think that Val's going to be the difference right away because, again, he's been off for a while. It'll be interesting to see how he comes back and play. But you're right. Their cup runs, he was a horse, and he's got everything there. It's just, unfortunately, he got sidetracked. And this, remember you used to get one strike? Now you get a couple, 2-3 strikes. But like I said, he's fortunate that they're probably not for the group and for the organization, but happy that, they're not doing so well. And the coach, he even said this, 2-3 weeks ago, Bednar said, we're going to welcome back with open arms. Like, really?
Yeah.
You kind of let me down a couple times here.
He said that in training camp. Yeah. He was setting this up for that. Yeah. Well, some positive news for the San Jose Sharks is Macklin Celebrini will be in the lineup as the Sharks play the Columbus Blue Jackets tonight in San Jose. He only played one game. He picked up a hip injury in preseason against against Utah on October 1st. Then he plays the opener against the St. Louis Blues, had a goal and an assist. Now, the goal was a weird sort of deflection or whatever, but he had 2 points. And he's placed on IR 2 days later. This
probably played too much. He played almost 18 minutes in his first game. You can't be wearing a young kid out like that.
So he's 18.
Doesn't have the legs at 18.
Number one overall pick. You kind of excited to see what he can do getting healthy and going?
Yeah. I was really excited to see him. He was such a good player in college.
We'll get to see him too, won't we?
Yeah. we'll get to see him, and then it's big for that team. Obviously, they can use all the help they can get. Really hope this is not one of those, like with hockey, you just worry about those injuries early on. You hope it's not the hips and the things that really can hinder players, because this kid is just obviously starting what should be a really long career.
2 weeks from tomorrow, the Sharks will be back in town for their second and final trip of this season to Dallas. So I think, for me anyway, from a hockey fan, I really hope he's in there.
I think it'll put maybe some more butts in the seats too.
I want to see him play.
Like a ghost town in that
bums and seats.
Well, especially at SAP Center, they could use that help because they have not been great so far. Let's see. Couple last things real quick. The Islanders are suffering more injuries as they lose Matthew Barzal and Adam Pelech each for 4 to 6 weeks. They already have Anthony Duclair injured. This is just adding to it. They're different injuries, and Pelech actually is out after taking a puck to the face. That's tough. The Barzal injury was during the Columbus Blue Jackets game. I think the Pelech one was against the Sabres. Luddy, when the injuries start to pile up on a team, especially early in the season, we talked about Colorado just a minute ago. The Islanders are right now in 7th out of 8 teams in the Metropolitan Division. Does the team start to think that this might not be their year, even though we're in early November?
It almost gives you a little bit of a get out of jail card. You know what I mean? Like now these two guys. I mean, misery loves company, but well, they got Matt Martin back though, didn't they?
They did.
Maybe
sign
he's
him,
the savior. I don't know what he's going to do, but yeah.
Guys, anything left? You want to talk about? Actually, one last thing, real quick, and then we'll go. Jere Lehtinen, our friend and head of the Finnish national team, said that Patrick Laine, this was a couple days ago, still a contender for Team Finland for the Four Nations. Why wouldn't he be? I mean, I know he's out for a long term, but a guy as talented as Laine is, wouldn't you at least keep that avenue open, even if he's not healthy to play? I know you have to name your roster in a month from now. It would be December 2nd, I believe, is the deadline. But wouldn't you hope that he could recover in time for that mid-February tournament?
I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch their home opener. And, in Montreal, they show everybody in down your family tree. They're introducing everybody. They had him standing kind of in the hallway, dressed in the funky kind of clothes that he wears and this goofy hat and everything. He looked so sad. Like, he looked awful. He just looked like he was so disappointed. And I think that if you're calling Montreal to ask, I would say, yes, please put him on there. Let's get him enjoying this game, this sport again. Let's put a smile on his face. And hopefully, that kind of gets him going, because he's, like you said, he's such a talented guy. And I think when he was in Winnipeg and he was scoring them goals all the time, I think you start holding him to a higher level and being a 50-goal, 60-goal scorer and things like that. And maybe he didn't live up to it. And I think he's almost like he was disappointed in himself. So I think there was some kind of external pressure put on him too early. So I think you just want to see a guy like that is so big, so skilled, has that wicked shot. This league needs guys like that in the league to be happy and have a good time doing it.
And it's been a while since he used to terrorize the Dallas Stars with the Winnipeg Jets. It's been
like a hat trick every other couple games.
Every time he played against Dallas, he was as lethal as it came, and you were afraid of him. Now he hasn't been that way in a while, and it's because of injuries. Coming up tomorrow, Sean will be back. As I said, Sam will be remote, but I think you're going to probably connect with us toward the end of the show as you give us your report from practice, because it's a 11 o'clock practice, I think, and we're on at 1 instead of 2 Central Time tomorrow. So by the time the coaches' media availability and the players are done, you wouldn't be able to get here in time, or at least not legally. You'd have to drive about 130 miles an hour.
Super chats for my helicopter would be
keep it up. Like,
appreciate it.
Wouldn't that, if we can get a nice little bullet train from Frisco to Dallas? Through the 3-minute ride. But anyway, Sean will be here. Luddy and I will talk about Tyler Seguin. We are maybe lining up a guest to talk about the Blackhawks, who are in on Thursday. We're going to have our Nils Lundqvist discussion after I think the most interesting Pete DeBoer quote we've heard about Nils in quite some time. So all that, Sam's practice update, and then we're going to do an NHL News and Notes segment separately that will be on demand after the show tomorrow. So thanks for joining us on this Tuesday. We are getting closer to getting games going again after a little bit of a layoff from this global series. So we're getting closer to Stars and Blackhawks. For Craig Ludwig, Sam Nessler, John Anderson, I'm Owen Newkirk. Thanks for joining us today. Make sure to like and subscribe, follow DLS Sports and DLS Stars. See you tomorrow.
like the mayor.